They fired me at my promotion party, so I played dumb and then did what they feared the most. The moment I heard the first cheer, I knew something was wrong. It wasn't the kind of cheer people let out for a birthday or a new baby. No, this one had teeth, a little too excited, a little too rehearsed. I stepped onto the rooftop terrace of Redwood Vista's Nashville office, heels clicking against stone, and instantly noticed the "Congratulations, Hannah Mae" banner flapping in the July breeze. Champagne flutes clinked, people clapped. Someone had the audacity to cue up a brass band rendition of "She's a Jolly Good Fellow." It was surreal. I'd been busting my tail in corporate communications for 7 years, late nights, last-minute campaign saves, fixing other people's disasters with smiles and spit polish. If this was finally my promotion party, maybe I should just lean in and enjoy it. But the pit in my stomach was louder than the music. Something wasn't right. "You look surprised." Colt Ramsey, my closest work friend and the only person I trusted in the building, met me near the terrace entrance. His tie was loose, hair wind-tossed, as always. He handed me a glass of Prosecco and leaned in. "They've been planning this all week. Even ordered lemon cake. Your favorite." "Yeah?" I took a sip, eyes scanning the crowd. "Funny, nobody told me." Colt's smile faded just a touch. "HR said it was hush-hush. You know, big reveal, promotion to VP of Communications. You earned this." I nodded slowly, but deep inside I could feel the chill crawling down my spine. 30 minutes in, after the small talk and smiles, Mason Burke stepped forward with his signature half-smirk. Mason was the kind of CEO who wore his Rolex on the inside of his wrist so it wouldn't seem like bragging, even though it totally was. He raised a glass. "To Hannah Mae Fletcher, the voice behind Redwood. The reason our brand speaks with heart and precision. We are thrilled to announce she's stepping into a new chapter with us." Everyone clapped. I felt my cheeks flush. I mouthed thank you and reached for a second glass. Then I saw Jolene Park, head of HR, weaving through the crowd like a wasp in pearls. She held a slim folder in one hand and a slightly strained smile on her face. "Can we step aside for just a second?" she asked sweetly. Too sweetly? We moved behind a potted ficus near the exit. The band was hitting a crescendo behind us. Jolene opened the folder, handed me a letter printed on company letterhead. "Termination notice, severance terms, immediate effect." I blinked. Twice. "You're firing me at my promotion party?" Her smile didn't move. "We're restructuring." This wasn't easy, but leadership felt it was time to take communications in a different direction. I looked back toward the crowd, toward my lemon cake. "Who exactly signed this?" "Executive consensus," she said quickly. "Mason included." I inhaled slowly. The air up here was thinner than it felt 30 minutes ago. "Okay." I folded the paper once, tucked it into my purse, and forced a smile. "I understand." Jolene blinked. "You do?" "Yes," I said warmly. "Thank you so much." Back at the party, no one noticed. The band was playing Walking on Sunshine. I took another sip of Prosecco and walked back to Colt. "You all right?" he asked. "Just got some news," I said with a grin. "They're restructuring." His face dropped. "Wait, they're letting you go? After this?" I just smiled. "Can you believe it?" "Not for a second," he growled. "Neither do I replied quietly, "but I'm gonna play along." Here's the thing about playing dumb, it only works when everyone else thinks you are. Over the next week, I made my exit the way they expected. Calm, graceful. I didn't raise my voice or write angry emails. I didn't post passive-aggressive LinkedIn farewells with cryptic quotes. Instead, I played the part, confused, grateful, and above all, no threat. But what they forgot, or never knew, was that I was the one who built the engine that ran their top campaigns. I wasn't just a mouthpiece. I was the strategist behind the voice. The reason we landed Franklin and Yates, the ones who brought in $12 million in Q2 revenue. And I still had the company phone. They never asked for it back. On day 3 of my offboarding, I walked into the office pretending I needed to grab a few personal items. I walked straight to the break room where Tessa Lee Monroe, the intern, was microwaving leftover risotto. She lit up. "Hey, Miss Hannah Mae, I thought you were, off?" "I am. Just needed to snag my blue folder. I left it in the war room." Tessa nodded. "You missed it. They scrapped the Franklin pitch." I feigned surprise. "The whole thing?" "Yeah. Jolene said we didn't have bandwidth to support it anymore, but I thought they were almost ready to present." "Didn't you write the main pitch deck?" "Sure did. I said with a wink. But I guess it wasn't aligned with the new direction. She frowned. Well, I saved a copy just in case. Yours was better than what they're doing now. Want me to send it to you? God bless interns. Absolutely, I said. That night, I sat on my living room floor in sweats, wine glass in hand, and studied everything I still had access to. Shared drives, client folders, new strategy drafts. The campaign I wrote, now discarded, was better than anything they had lined up for Q4. Without it, they were going to crash. They just didn't know it yet. So I called an old friend, Grant Holloway. His voice hadn't changed, calm, confident. We hadn't spoken in 2 years, not since the breakup. Hey Grant, it's Hannah Mae. Silence for a second. Then, well, I'll be damned. I hear North Arrow's still chasing Franklin and Yates. He paused. How'd you know that? Let's just say I have sources and ideas, the kind Redwood no longer has. I let that sit. He exhaled. You want to pitch together? Not exactly, I said. I want you to see what I can do without Redwood. Firefly Verve was born in silence, but it didn't stay quiet for long. Just me, a laptop, and the kind of hunger that comes when someone thinks they've cut your wings, only to find out you've been flying solo the whole time. The first pitch meeting wasn't about winning. It was about being seen. I sat in a rented conference room at the Old Bailey Hotel, not some glass tower downtown, but a repurposed 1940s event space with velvet curtains and a single flickering wall sconce that couldn't decide if it was dramatic or broken. Across the table, Grant Holloway, my ex, now North Arrow Creative senior strategist, his expression, suspicious, curious, intrigued. This the whole team? He asked, leaning back, arms crossed. Just me, I said. For now. He tilted his head. You're pitching Franklin and Yates alone? I wrote the pitch Redwood shelved. I've reworked it. What you're about to see is 10 times better than anything they ever let me present. Grant eyed the modest slide deck in front of him. No corporate flash, no over-polished design, just grit, clarity, and what Redwood feared most, my own voice. All right, Hannah Mae, let's see what you've got. I took a deep breath and started. No jargon, no marketing fluff, just story. The kind of story that made Midwestern dads tear up during Super Bowl ads. A pitch built on trust, transparency, and shared values. I'd rewritten Franklin and Yates's future as a family brand, not a legal powerhouse. When I finished, Grant didn't speak for a moment. Then, Jesus Christ, too much? No. I forgot how damn good you are. He leaned forward. You freelancing or building something real? I'm building Firefly Verve, I said. From the ground up. Grant stood. Extended a hand. Well then, partner up. We go in together, North Arrow and Firefly. I take the meetings, you lead the pitch. Franklin and Yates won't know what hit them. I smiled. Let's light 'em up. The moment Franklin and Yates called with a yes, Grant texted me 2 words. We're in. Redwood Vista had no idea they'd been outflanked. Not yet. They were still moving budget around, cutting corners, and convincing themselves that letting me go had been a strategic move. Meanwhile, Firefly was rising. Fast. I used the buyout from Redwood to rent a shoebox office above a hardware store in East Nashville. The ceiling leaked when it rained, and one of the outlets sparked when you plugged in the printer. But it was mine. And in that scrappy little office, I made my first hire. Come in, I called when the doorbell buzzed. Tessa Lee Monroe stepped in, clutching her faux leather bag, eyes wide. You serious about this internship? Serious enough to quit my other one, she said, chin up. You realize I'm a one-woman startup with no health insurance and a barely working coffee machine? Tessa smiled. But you're the reason I fell in love with branding. I handed her a folder. Then let's make some noise. Back at Redwood, Mason Burke was pacing. The first tremor hit when Franklin and Yates made their announcement, a partnership with North Arrow and an independent creative division. Jolene Park brought the press release to Mason's office, her face a tight mask. You think Holloway had help? He asked. She didn't answer. He narrowed his eyes. Call Colt Ramsey. He and Hannah were close. Colt answered on the 3rd ring. Hey Jolene, what's this about? I need to know if you've spoken to Hannah Mae recently. A pause. She stopped by to pick up her things a while ago. Anything else? Colt's voice chilled. You fired the most valuable person in this company. I think you should worry less about who she's talking to, and more about how fast she's building what you lost. He hung up. Franklin and Yates was just the beginning. Once the industry saw their campaign, emotional, honest, elegant. Firefly got noticed. We got flooded. First, a fitness brand from Austin, then a southern food chain, then a nonprofit that had been rejected by Redwood twice. Every client had the same story. They were tired of bloated agencies charging six figures to find their voice. Firefly didn't find voices. We amplified them. But success comes with shadows. 2 days after we went live with the Sutton's Grains launch, a lawyer showed up at my office with a folder and a half apology. Redwood's claiming you retained proprietary material. They want to initiate a cease and desist. Tessa gasped behind me. I didn't blink. Tell Mason Burke, I said. I kept nothing of theirs. I created everything of mine, and if he wants to tango, I'll see him in court with my deck, my notes, and every client I earned with my own damn name. The lawyer didn't return after that. Late one night, I sat alone, office light buzzing, sipping cold coffee and rereading a list of upcoming pitches. I should have been exhausted. Instead, I felt alive. I had no investors, no safety net, no boardroom applause, but I had the one thing they feared the most: myself. Unchained. And they were starting to feel it. At Redwood HQ, Mason Burke stood before the board. Our Q3 numbers are not ideal. How did we lose Franklin and now Sutton's? You assured us they were in the bag. Mason's smile was thinner than ever. Let me be clear. This is temporary. We are refocusing. Stronger than ever. Behind him, a monitor flashed Redwood's new mission statement, something Jolene's intern wrote last minute. Generic. Hollow. The board members exchanged glances. One muttered, "Maybe we backed the wrong horse." Mason clenched his jaw. It wasn't long before Firefly's rise became a talking point in the industry trades. One headline read, "From Fallout to Firefly, How One Woman's Exit Ignited a Creative Rebellion." Another, "The Lemon Cake Firing, Corporate Mistake of the Year? We didn't plant them, we didn't need to." The story told itself. I was walking out of the office one night when I saw Colt waiting by the curb, arms crossed, grinning. I figured it was time to stop watching from the sidelines, he said. I nodded. You sure you want to leave Redwood? He shrugged. They already lost their soul. Might as well lose their designer, too. I opened the door and welcomed him in. Inside the dim Firefly office, the lights flickered, the coffee was stale, and the walls were still bare. But we had heart, we had grit, and now, we had a team. 6 weeks into our rise, someone tried to destroy us. It started with a simple call from the director of brand integrity at Sutton's Grains. A friendly man named Hal, who usually opened every conversation with a joke about cornbread. That morning, he sounded like a funeral director. Hey, Hannah Mae. We have a situation. My stomach dropped. What happened? Someone submitted a press inquiry with screenshots of your campaign decks. They're claiming we copied visuals from Redwood Vista's private archives. We're getting flagged for IP theft. I stood in the middle of the office, cold and quiet. Hal, that's not true. I believe you, he said, but PR doesn't run on belief. By noon, the first headline hit the trades. Did Firefly Verve steal from Redwood? The article was suspiciously detailed. Quotes from an anonymous insider. Language pulled straight from the Redwood playbook. It was war. And Jolene Park had started it. Colt, now our lead creative, slammed his laptop shut. I know her style. This has her fingerprints all over it. The fonts, the phrasing. It's not just an attack, it's bait. He looked at me. What do we do? I sat down, heart racing, and whispered, We don't defend. We flip the script. That night, I called Grant Holloway. I need 2 things, I said. Your PR muscle and a press leak. You want to fight dirty? No, I want to fight loud. He chuckled. All right, send me everything. We'll back your claim. By morning, a counter-narrative hit every major media outlet in the industry. Redwood tried to silence Firefly and got burned. Attached was a public dossier, side-by-side screenshots of our deck versus Redwood's archived internal drafts. They weren't similar. Ours were better. And they were time-stamped 2 months after I left Redwood. The implication was clear. Redwood wasn't protecting its property. It was panicking. Within 48 hours, Redwood's LinkedIn page turned into a firestorm. Former employees started commenting, posting, sharing their own stories. I was let go right after maternity leave. Same restructure excuse. They deleted 3 years of my work and called it innovation. Hannah Mae's campaign was the only one that ever brought us real engagement. The tide turned, quickly. After the dust settled, our inbox exploded. 4 new clients, 2 collaboration offers, One request from a documentary filmmaker who wanted to tell our story. But I wasn't interested in interviews or sympathy pieces. I wanted results. We moved into a slightly larger office. Still on the east side, still gritty, but with real desks this time. Colt brought in mood boards. Tessa organized a client pipeline. And I stayed up most nights writing copy so personal it made CFOs cry in pitch meetings. One client, a cancer nonprofit, sent us a handwritten note after their first campaign launched. "You made us feel like people again. Not a brand. Thank you." I tacked it to the wall, right above our janky mini fridge. We weren't just winning, we were changing the game. Back at Redwood, Mason Burke stood in front of a shrinking staff. Jolene at his side, voice thinner by the week. They were bleeding. 3 C-suite resignations, half the design team gone, multiple clients evaluating other options, and now rumors were swirling that Redwood might be acquired. By who? North Arrow. The irony tasted like vinegar. Then came the final twist I didn't expect. One night, Colt burst into my office, breathless. "I just got a message from someone at Redwood, a temp in finance. Says she found an invoice trail, under-the-table payments to 2 writers. One of them your name, but spelled wrong. Hannah Mae Fletcher." I narrowed my eyes. "What are they doing?" "They're trying to frame you. They're forging work, pretending you ghost-wrote internal assets post-exit." That meant only one thing, a setup for litigation. If they could claim I still contributed to Redwood, they could try to sue Firefly for poaching or theft of strategy. It wasn't just personal anymore, it was strategic assassination. I knew what I had to do. I drafted a letter to the Tennessee State Board of Business Ethics, then one to a friend of mine at the Nashville Ledger, a local paper with teeth. But I didn't send them yet. First I called Jolene Park. She answered on the 3rd ring. "Well, look who's calling." "I'd like to meet," I said calmly. "Coffee, neutral ground." She hesitated. "You're not my problem anymore, Hannah Mae." "I think I still am," I said. "Bring Mason, I'll bring the truth." We met at the Rusty Bell, a quiet cafe known more for its blueberry pie than business deals. Jolene came in wearing a gray blazer. Mason trailed behind her, silent, tight-jawed. I sat across from them and slid a slim envelope across the table. Inside, printouts of the forged invoice trail, time-stamped server logs, and a notarized witness statement from the finance temp. "I don't need to sue you," I said, "but I will." They didn't speak. "If you so much as whisper my name again, if you send one more intern a whisper campaign or manufacture one more claim, I will bury you in court and in press, and I'll do it with a smile." Mason stared at me. Jolene reached for her water and said, "We're done here." "Good," I replied, "because I'm just getting started." A week later, Redwood Vista issued a transition statement. Jolene Park resigned. Mason was stepping down. By quarter's end, their top 3 clients had left. Redwood wasn't gone, but it was a ghost of itself. And I hadn't raised my voice once. Late fall. Our first brand launch gala. Nothing flashy, just a big room full of laughter, bourbon, and music. Colt toasted to bold choices. Tessa danced barefoot near the projector, and I stepped outside for a breath of cold air. Across the street, a billboard lit up. It was one of ours. A campaign for a mental health clinic in small-town Kentucky. Just 5 words. A photo of a mother hugging her son. "It's okay to ask again." A car slowed down as it passed. A woman in the passenger seat pointed to the board. She was crying. I smiled. This was what they feared the most. Every fire draws shadows. 6 months after we launched Firefly Verve, we were no longer scrappy. We were being called visionary. I opened my inbox one morning to see emails with subject lines like, "Fast Company wants a quote for their Women Who Built It feature." Creative director of Dove asking for a virtual coffee. "Are you open to acquisition?" And then the one that made my stomach tighten. Subject urgent, meeting request from Delilah Rowe. The Delilah Rowe, former creative director at Blue Rain Agency, Madison Avenue Royalty. The woman who made toothpaste brands weep at Cannes. She wanted to meet me. It happened in a corner booth at the High Noon Diner, a Nashville institution with cracked red vinyl seats and pie that should have been illegal. Delilah wore no makeup, all black. Carried herself like she could sell a brand with just a raised eyebrow. She ordered coffee. Black. No small talk. "Firefly's real," she said after one sip. "That Franklin and Yates campaign, you rewired the game." "Thank you," I said, guarded. I'm building something, she said. A coalition of creatives tired of bloat, politics, fake equity statements. I want Firefly in. What does in mean? She smiled. It means a $6 million buy-in for a 40% stake. You'd keep creative control. I'd bring capital, clients, and leverage. That was the moment my breath caught. Firefly Verve, with real runway, real reach. But also, someone else in the driver's seat. Back at the office, I laid it out for the team. Tessa sat forward. Delilah Rowe? That's huge. Colt crossed his arms. And dangerous. I looked at him. She's everything we're not, Hannah Mae. She builds empires, sure, but she leaves ash behind. Look up what happened to Blue Rain. Half her team walked. But we'd stay in control, I said. She'd bring structure, funding, a chance to scale. You didn't start this for funding, he said flatly. You started this to take something back. The room went quiet, and I realized the same fire that helped me rise was now flickering under pressure. 3 weeks later, we were invited to speak at the Atlantic Voices Summit in New Orleans, a keynote. For me, the theme, the new language of brands. I stepped on stage in a navy dress and brown boots, my voice clear but my hands slightly trembling. Behind me, a screen that read, Firefly Verve, small words, big moves. I spoke of the night they fired me. I spoke of fake values and real people. I spoke of my grandmother who once told me, if you want someone to listen, whisper. If you want them to feel, show them their own heart. I got a standing ovation and an email from Nike 20 minutes later. We couldn't keep up with the demand. Clients were pouring in. Firefly was booked out 6 months. We had to turn down Appleton Coffee, Marigold Skin, and The Clean Table, 3 dream brands. Tessa was burning out. Colt was staying later and later. I caught him sleeping on the office couch once, arm wrapped around a half-finished layout. We were growing too fast. But when I mentioned Delilah's offer again, it was like dropping a bomb. Colt slammed his water bottle down. You bring her in, he said. I walk. Tessa looked torn. We're drowning, Hannah, but he's not wrong. What are we building? A company or a machine? And I had no answer. The night before my final meeting with Delilah, I went back to the rooftop of the Redwood building. Same sky, same view, same city that once handed me a glass of Prosecco and a pink slip. I stood where it all began and whispered, what would Grandma Fletcher do? The wind was quiet, but inside something stirred. She wouldn't sell the house she built just because the neighbors got fancy windows. I met Delilah the next day. I'm flattered, I said, but Firefly isn't a brand you acquire, it's a soul you protect. She raised a brow. You're walking away from 6 million? No, I'm walking towards something I've already earned. Delilah didn't argue. She just smiled. Then you'd better keep earning it. And she walked out. Afterward, I met Colt at the coffee shop down the block. I turned her down, I said. He didn't answer for a long second. Then, that was the right choice. I don't want to become the thing I fought to escape. He smiled, slow and real. Then let's keep burning honest. Just when we caught our breath, Redwood made its move. A video campaign went viral overnight, a rebrand effort focused on inclusion, honesty, and transparency. Same tone, same structure, same messaging style. Only, it wasn't real. They mimicked us, line by line. Even the voiceover script echoed a Firefly tagline word for word. Tessa was livid. They're trying to wear our clothes like they bought them. Colt dug deeper. Guess what? They hired an ex-freelancer we passed on last month, the one who begged to collaborate with a rising star. They couldn't kill us, so they tried to clone us. But the soul? You can't fake that. We launched a counter-campaign the next day, not defensive, just honest. A split-screen video. On the left, Redwood's shiny ads, smiling actors, corporate buzzwords. On the right, real footage, real clients, honest stories from cancer survivors, farmers, struggling parents, and everyday people who found their voice through Firefly's work. The closing line, some brands talk loud, others just listen. We didn't name names, we didn't need to. The internet did it for us. Firefly stood tall again. Not because of press, not because of money, because people believed us. And more importantly, because we still believed in ourselves. I sat in the new Firefly studio that night, lights low, watching Colt sketch logo ideas for a literacy nonprofit we just signed. He looked up. Think we're ready to go global? I smiled. No, I think we're ready to go deeper. It started with a missing file, a pitch deck. Not just any pitch. Thistle and Dune, a $4 million wellness brand based out of Portland. known for their ethics, activism, and fiercely loyal customer base. Colt had spent 2 weeks on the visuals. Tessa and I had rewritten the messaging 10 times. It was intimate, emotional, bold. The deck was ready. And then it vanished. Gone from the shared drive, the backup folder, even the USB we used for offline storage. I looked up from my laptop, heart in my throat. "Where's the thistle deck?" I asked. Colt blinked. "What do you mean, where is it? You sent it to Tessa to upload last night." I turned toward her desk. Tessa wasn't there. When Tessa came in 20 minutes late and breathless, I knew something was off. Her smile was too bright, her bag too full. "I just grabbed coffee," she said, setting down her things. I asked quietly, "Did you upload the thistle deck?" She froze. "No, I thought Colt was doing that." Colt stood. "I gave it to you directly. USB and everything." I must have forgotten. "I'm sorry." I nodded, but a chill crept over my skin. Tessa had never forgotten, not once. We didn't have time to untangle it. The next morning, Redwood Vista announced a partnership proposal with Thistle and Dune, complete with a deck nearly identical to ours. Same tone, same slogan. Even the voiceover sample Colt recorded. Colt was white hot. That was stolen. No one could have duplicated that copy without having it word for word. He turned to me. "Someone gave it to them." I said nothing, but my heart was already breaking. That night, I called Tessa into the office. Alone. We sat across from each other. The same table where she first told me she believed in Firefly, where we planned campaigns over takeout, where I promised I'd teach her everything I knew. "Tessa," I said softly, "tell me the truth, please." She blinked back tears. "I didn't mean to, I swear. I didn't know what they'd do with it." I froze. "What do you mean?" Her voice cracked. "Jolene reached out 2 weeks ago, said she was starting something new, a more ethical branch of Redwood. She said she admired me, that she needed help, and that I was undervalued here." I stared. "You didn't tell us?" "I wanted to. But she made me sign an NDA first. I thought if I gave her one pitch it'd get her off my back." "One pitch?" I whispered. "You gave her everything." Colt found out 15 minutes later. "I've never seen him that angry. You built this place to escape people like her, and now we've got her shadow inside the damn walls." Tessa sobbed. "I didn't mean to." "You didn't mean to?" he snapped. "You handed our heartbeat to the people who tried to kill it." "Enough," I said sharply. "Colt, go cool off." He stormed out. Tessa slumped, face buried in her hands. "I'm so sorry." "I believe you," I said, "but I can't protect you." She nodded, silent. "I wrote the exit letter myself." She signed it without protest. The office was colder the next morning. Colt avoided eye contact. I avoided mirrors. We didn't lose Thistle. They were too disgusted by Redwood's move to accept the deal, but the damage was deeper than client loss. We had lost trust. Firefly was a house we built on loyalty, on honesty. And now there was a crack in the foundation. The story leaked anyway. Industry blogs started whispering that Firefly was losing control, that we were too emotional, too idealistic to scale. One post read, "A beautiful brand until the seams started showing." For the first time since that rooftop firing, I felt afraid. Not because of Redwood, not because of money, because maybe they were right. Maybe we weren't built to last. 3 days later, Colt came to my office. No laptop, no sketches, just a folded note. "I need to step back," he said quietly. "Not forever, just long enough to remember why I joined this place." "Is this about Tessa?" "It's about us," he said. "We built this on fire, but lately, it feels like smoke." He left without a hug. That night I stayed late, alone, flipping through old campaign boards. One quote was still pinned above the light table. "We don't make noise, we make meaning." I stared at it for a long time. Then I pulled out my phone and started typing. The next morning, I sent a company-wide message. Simple. Honest. To the Firefly family, we built this from nothing but trust. And recently, I broke some of that. I trusted the wrong person. I missed the signs. That's on me. But this isn't a story about betrayal. It's a story about accountability. Starting today, Firefly will pause all new business intake for 2 weeks. We will audit our systems, our structure, and ourselves. Because I'd rather go slow with soul than fast without it. We're not just a company, we're a promise. And I intend to keep it. With fire and with love, Hannah Mae Fletcher, I braced for backlash. Instead, I got silence. Then, emails. Dozens. From employees, from clients, from strangers. "Thank you for owning it. We've needed a voice like this in the industry for a long time. This is why I trust Firefly. Even Colt replied, "This was the bravest thing you've done." I'm not done. Just catching my breath. 2 weeks later, Firefly reopened. No confetti, no announcements, just us. Leaner, smarter, wiser. We implemented ethical review boards for every campaign. We built a new intake protocol with real transparency. We even started an internship fund named the Tessa program, for kids trying to escape toxic pipelines. We didn't erase what happened. We built around it, like rings on a tree. Late one night, I walked past the front window of Firefly and stopped. There, printed in white on the glass just below our name, small words, big moves. I touched it once. Not for luck, for memory. Redwood Vista made its final move in spring. A video campaign dropped overnight. High production, celebrity voiceover, glossy, intentional, expensive. The title? Rooted Again. A full-scale rebrand. All about trust, human connection, community. It sounded familiar. Too familiar. Colt watched it in our war room. Jaw clenched. They're not even hiding it anymore. This is a carbon copy of our everyday storyline framework. I nodded slowly, arms crossed. They use the same cadence, even our background music template. Tessa, now working remotely on freelance terms after her exit and return, spoke up through the Zoom speaker. They're trying to out Firefly. They weren't just coming back, they were coming for our crown. But this time, we were ready. Because we didn't build Firefly to win awards. We built it to connect, and connection, unlike branding, can't be bought. The full circle request. A week later, I got an email from a name I hadn't seen in over a year, Grant Holloway. Subject, important Hannah, Redwood's restructuring again. Mason stepping down, for real this time. They've asked me to take interim control while they search for a new CEO. And before you delete this email, I want you to hear me out. They need help. The board wants authenticity. They finally understand what they lost. I told them the only person who can restore their voice is the woman they tried to erase. You. I know what this sounds like, but I believe this could be more than redemption. It could be healing. Talk soon? Grant. I stared at the screen for a long time. Me? Consult for Redwood? The same company that handed me a pink slip next to a lemon cake? But the idea stuck with me like a splinter in my mind. What if the story didn't have to end in bitterness? What if it could end in ownership? I agreed to meet Grant on neutral ground, back at the Rusty Bell Cafe, where I'd once stared down Jolene and Mason. This time, there was no envelope, just 2 coffees. One apology. They're desperate, he said. Their talent's scattered, the culture's broken, and the board is begging for a North Star. I raised an eyebrow. They're asking me to fix what they shattered. They're asking you to do what you've always done, he said. Tell the truth. A week later, it came. Not just a consulting gig, creative chair of Redwood Vista. 6 months, full control of tone, ethics, campaign direction. Firefly would remain independent. The contract ensured no overlap, no conflict, and a clause only I requested. Every campaign must pass Firefly's values review before approval. In other words, they wouldn't just pay me, they'd learn from me. Publicly. I brought it to the Firefly team. Colt looked unsure. You really want to walk back into that building? I don't want to, I said, but I think I need to. Tessa asked, why not just let them burn out again? I smiled faintly. Because if they actually change, that's the best revenge. Walking back through Redwood Vista's lobby felt like stepping into a museum that once tried to bury you. Same glass, same banners, same smell of pine-scented ambition. But everything else had changed. Or maybe I had. The first thing I did? Fire the agency that cloned Firefly's playbook. The second, create a new in-house mentorship program, open to all staff, no matter their level. I named it after someone who once believed in the wrong people for the right reasons. The Tessa Lee Fellowship. The campaign that changed everything. I launched a single campaign under Redwood's new soul, The Voice Next Door. It was about forgotten people, factory workers, teachers, unpaid caregivers, their faces, their names, their stories, no polish, no pitch, just 90 seconds of raw human emotion. The ad went viral, not because it was perfect, because it was real. It didn't win a Clio, but it won something bigger. Redemption. 6 months passed. Redwood stabilized. They offered me a permanent role. I said no. Why? The board asked. Because I already have a fire, I said. And I won't trade sparks for embers. Back at Firefly, we're in our new home, an old repurposed schoolhouse with chalkboard walls, skylights, and a porch swing out front. I walk past the interns, all fresh eyes and louder hearts. Colt's in the back sketching for our next public school reform campaign. Tessa's leading a session on ethical storytelling. There's a billboard outside with a new Firefly tagline. 5 words. We see who you are. A woman drives by and slows. She reads it, she smiles, and I smile too. Because sometimes the fire you start doesn't burn things down, sometimes it lights the way.